The Awakening. The U.S. Resilience drifted silently in the void, a relic of humanity's past glory. Once a proud warship that had defended Earth and her colonies, it now floated lifelessly in orbit around Novus Prime, the furthest human settlement from Earth. For decades, it had served as nothing more than a museum piece, a reminder of the time when humanity first reached for the stars. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Novus Prime's space station, her dark eyes fixed on the dormant vessel. At 35, she was one of the youngest officers to achieve her rank, known for her tactical brilliance and unwavering determination. Her grip tightened on the railing as she watched a maintenance shuttle make its routine check on the Resilience. "Still admiring that old rust bucket, Commander?" The gruff voice of Chief Engineer Marcus Rodriguez broke through her thoughts. Sarah turned, a faint smile on her lips. "That rust bucket is a piece of history, Chief. She's got stories to tell." Rodriguez snorted, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Stories, sure. But what good is a warship that can't fight?" Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red warning lights bathed the observation deck in an eerie glow. Sarah's comm unit crackled to life, the voice of Admiral Patel, head of Novus Prime's defense, cutting through the chaos. "All senior officers report to the command center immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Sarah and Rodriguez exchanged a look of concern before sprinting towards the command center. As they ran, Sarah's mind raced. Novus Prime was peaceful, far from any known threats. What could possibly warrant this level of alarm? The command center was a flurry of activity when they arrived. Officers hurried between stations, their voices a cacophony of urgent reports and orders. At the center of it all stood Admiral Patel, her usually composed demeanor replaced by one of grave concern. "Commander Chen, Chief Rodriguez, glad you could join us," Patel said, her voice tight. "We have a situation." She gestured to the main view screen, which displayed a sea of red dots approaching Novus Prime. Long-range sensors picked up these signals an hour ago. They're unlike anything we've ever seen before, and they're heading straight for us. Sarah studied the screen, her tactical mind already analyzing the formation. "Alien?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Patel nodded grimly. "First contact, and it doesn't look friendly. We've tried hailing them, but there's been no response. Their technology, it's far beyond ours. Our defenses won't stand a chance." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. Novus Prime was home to over 1 million colonists, pioneers who had braved the unknown to build a new life. Now they faced annihilation. "What about evacuation?" Rodriguez asked, breaking the silence. Patel shook her head. "We don't have enough ships to evacuate everyone, and even if we did, where would we go? We're too far from any other colonies or Earth itself. We'd be sitting ducks out there." Sarah's mind raced, searching for a solution. Her eyes drifted to the view screen, past the approaching alien fleet, to where the U.S. Resilience floated serenely. An idea began to form, wild and desperate. "The Resilience," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What about it?" Patel asked, following her gaze. Sarah turned to face the room, her eyes alight with determination. "We reactivate the Resilience. Use it to defend Novus Prime." A beat of stunned silence followed, broken by Rodriguez's incredulous laugh. "You can't be serious. That ship hasn't been operational in decades. It's a museum, for crying out loud." "A museum with the most advanced weapons systems of its time," Sarah countered. "Systems that these aliens won't be familiar with. It might be our only chance." Patel considered for a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. "Even if we did get it operational, who would crew it? We don't have anyone trained on those old systems." Sarah stood straighter, her chin lifted in determination. "I studied every inch of that ship, Admiral. I know her systems, her capabilities. Give me a skeleton crew of our best and brightest, and I'll make her sing again. The Admiral's eyes narrowed as she weighed the proposal. It was a long shot, bordering on insanity. But as she looked at the approaching alien fleet on the view screen, she realized they were out of options. "You have 48 hours, Commander," Patel said finally. "Get that ship operational. It's our only hope." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with plans. "Chief Rodriguez, I'll need you with me. We've got a lot of work to do." As they hurried out of the command center, Sarah's thoughts turned to the monumental task ahead: reactivating a decades-old warship, training a crew, and preparing to face an unknown alien threat, all in just 2 days. It seemed impossible, but Sarah Chen had never been one to back down from a challenge. The next 48 hours were a blur of frantic activity. Sarah and Rodriguez, along with a hand-picked team of engineers and technicians, worked tirelessly to bring the Resilience back to life. The old ship groaned and creaked as long-dormant systems were reactivated, but slowly, surely, she began to awaken. Sarah stood on the bridge, surrounded by a mix of cutting-edge holographic displays and old-fashioned physical controls. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and machinery as the ship's systems hummed to life around her. "Report, Chief," she called out, her eyes fixed on the main view screen where the alien fleet loomed ever closer. Rodriguez's voice came through the comm, tinged with exhaustion but underlaid with excitement. "We've got main power online, Commander. Weapons systems are at 80% capacity and climbing. Life support and artificial gravity are stable. She's not pretty, but she'll fly." A smile tugged at Sarah's lips. "She doesn't need to be pretty, Chief. She just needs to fight." As if in response to her words, the ship shuddered, and the lights on the bridge flickered momentarily before steadying. A deep, resonant hum filled the air as the Resilience's ancient engines roared to life. "Now that's what I call perfect timing," Sarah muttered, her hands dancing over the controls as she familiarized herself with the ship's systems. The bridge door hissed open, and Admiral Patel strode in, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. "I have to admit, Commander, I didn't think you'd actually pull this off." Sarah turned to face her superior, standing tall despite the exhaustion that threatened to overwhelm her. "The Resilience is ready for action, Admiral. We await your orders." Patel nodded, her expression grim. "The alien fleet will be within weapons range in less than an hour. Our ground defenses are as prepared as they can be, but," she trailed off, the unspoken truth hanging heavy in the air. "Without the Resilience, Novus Prime stood no chance." "We'll hold the line, Admiral," Sarah said, her voice filled with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. "Whatever it takes." Patel studied her for a moment before nodding. "The fate of Novus Prime is in your hands, Commander. Good hunting." With a final salute, she turned and left the bridge. Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as she faced her hastily assembled bridge crew. They were a mix of seasoned officers and bright-eyed cadets, all volunteers who had stepped up to this impossible mission. "I won't lie to you," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the bridge. "We're facing an unknown enemy with superior technology. The odds are stacked against us, but we have something they don't: the ingenuity and determination of the human spirit." She paused, meeting each crew member's eyes in turn. "This ship, the USS Resilience, has stood the test of time. She's carried our ancestors through countless battles, defended humanity when all seemed lost. Today, we have the honor of writing the next chapter in her story, and in doing so, we'll show these aliens what humanity is truly capable of." A chorus of "Aye, Commander" echoed through the bridge, the crew's faces set with determination. Sarah turned back to the view screen, her hands resting on the ship's controls. "Helm, take us out. Weapons, stand by. Let's remind the galaxy why they call us the Resilience." With a grace that belied her age, the US Resilience pulled away from her orbit around Novus Prime. Her engines flared to life, propelling her towards the approaching alien fleet. As she moved, dormant weapon systems powered up, rail guns extended from hidden compartments, and missile bays slid open. On the bridge, Sarah watched the distance to the alien fleet tick down. Her heart raced, but her hands were steady on the controls. Whatever happened next, she knew that the fate of Novus Prime, and perhaps all of humanity, rested on the shoulders of this ancient warship and her crew. As the alien ships grew larger on the viewscreen, Sarah allowed herself a small, grim smile. "All hands, battle stations," she commanded, her voice echoing throughout the ship. "Let's show these aliens what a museum piece can do." The U.S. Resilience surged forward, her weapons primed and her crew ready. The battle for Novus Prime was about to begin, and with it, a new chapter in human history would be written, one of courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable human spirit. First contact. The void of space erupted in a dazzling display of light and energy as the USS Resilience engaged the alien fleet. Commander Sarah Chen's hands flew across the controls, her eyes darting between tactical displays and the main viewscreen. Evasive maneuvers. She barked as a volley of alien energy weapons streaked towards them. The ancient ship groaned in protest but responded, narrowly avoiding the barrage. "Return fire, all batteries," Sarah ordered. The Resilience's railguns roared to life, spitting hypervelocity rounds at the nearest alien vessel. To Sarah's surprise and relief, the primitive projectiles punched through the alien's energy shields, leaving gaping holes in its hull. "Direct hit," exclaimed Lieutenant Zara Curry, the young weapons officer. Her dark eyes widened in disbelief. "Commander, they're shields. They're not designed to stop kinetic weapons." A grim smile played on Sarah's lips. "Looks like being outdated has its advantages. Concentrate fire on their lead ship. Let's see how they like a taste of obsolete human technology." As the battle raged on, Sarah began to notice patterns in the alien fleet's movements. Their ships were incredibly advanced, capable of maneuvers that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them. But there was something predictable about their tactics. "Chief Rodriguez," Sarah called over the comm. "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" The chief's gruff voice came back, tinged with excitement. "If you mean that these aliens fight like they've never faced a real opponent before, then yeah, I'm seeing it." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. They're relying too heavily on their tech. No adaptability, no real strategy. It's like they've never had to actually fight a war before. A violent shudder ran through the ship as an alien energy beam grazed their hull. Sparks flew from a nearby console, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. "Damage report," Sarah demanded, steadying herself against her command chair. "Hull breach on Deck 4, ceiling now," reported Ensign Takai, her fingers flying over her console. "Shields at 60% and falling. We can't take much more of this, Commander." Sarah gritted her teeth. Despite the aliens' lack of tactical finesse, their sheer technological superiority was overwhelming. She needed to even the odds and fast. "Helm, bring us about," she ordered. "I want us right in the middle of their fleet." Lieutenant Connor Hayes, the helmsman, looked back at her in shock. "Right in the middle, sir? That's suicide." "Trust me, Lieutenant. Sometimes the safest place to be is right under your enemy's nose." Sarah's voice was calm, but her heart raced as she watched the alien ships grow larger on the viewscreen. As the Resilience plunged into the heart of the alien formation, chaos erupted. The alien ships, unused to such close-quarters combat, began to fire wildly, their energy weapons often hitting their own allies in their attempt to destroy the human vessel. "Now, Mr. Hayes, corkscrew maneuver, just like we practiced." The Resilience spun and dove, weaving between the alien ships with a grace that belied her age. Sarah's gamble paid off. The aliens, in their confusion, began to inflict significant damage on each other. "Commander," Zara called out, her voice tense with excitement. "I'm detecting a change in the alien fleet's formation. They're trying to retreat." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Sarah remained focused. "Don't celebrate yet. Pursuit course, maximum thrust. We need to press our advantage." As the Resilience gave chase, Sarah opened a channel to Novus Prime. Admiral Patel, this is Commander Chen. We forced the alien fleet into retreat, but we're pursuing to ensure they don't regroup. Patel's voice came back, filled with a mixture of relief and concern. Understood, Commander. But be careful, we still know next to nothing about these aliens or their capabilities. Acknowledged, Admiral. We'll stay alert. As they pursued the retreating aliens, Sarah noticed something odd on the long-range sensors. Mr. Takai, what's that large structure at the edge of the system? Ensign Takai frowned at her readings. It appears to be some kind of space station, Commander. Massive in size, easily dwarfing anything we've ever built. It seems to be generating some kind of energy field. Sarah's eyes narrowed. That must be how they got here so quickly. Some kind of faster-than-light travel technology we've never seen before. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Commander, Zara shouted, the alien ships are accelerating rapidly towards that structure. Sarah watched in awe as the alien vessels seemed to elongate, stretching impossibly before vanishing in a flash of light as they reached the space station. They're gone, Connor reported, his voice hushed. Just gone. For a moment, silence reigned on the bridge, broken only by the steady beep of sensors and the hum of the ship's systems. Sarah took a deep breath, her mind reeling from the implications of what they'd just witnessed. All right, people, let's take stock. We've won this battle, but something tells me the war is far from over. As the crew began to assess the damage and secure the ship, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious, but at what cost? And what would the aliens do next? Chief Rodriguez, she called over the comm. I need you to gather every scrap of data we collected on those alien ships and that space station. We need to understand what we're up against. Already on it, Commander, Rodriguez replied. And let me tell you, some of this tech, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's going to take some time to make sense of it all. Sarah nodded, even though Rodriguez couldn't see her. Time might be a luxury we don't have, Chief. Work fast. Turning to the rest of her bridge crew, Sarah saw a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration on their faces. They had accomplished the impossible today, but she knew that this was only the first step in a long and dangerous journey. All hands, this is the commander speaking, Sarah announced shipwide. What you've accomplished today is nothing short of miraculous. You've defended our home, our people, against a threat of unimaginable power. Each and every one of you should be proud. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. But our job isn't done. Those aliens will be back, and next time, they'll be ready for us. We need to be prepared. We need to be stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever before. As Sarah spoke, she could almost feel the resolve of her crew strengthening. They had tasted victory against impossible odds, and that taste had awakened something primal and powerful within them. We are the USS Resilience, Sarah continued, her voice filled with fierce pride. We are humanity's shield, the last line of defense for our people. And no matter what the universe throws at us, we will endure, we will fight, we will survive. A chorus of cheers erupted throughout the ship, the sound of humanity's defiance in the face of the unknown. As the Resilience turned back towards Novus Prime, Sarah's mind was already racing with plans. They needed to analyze the alien technology, upgrade their defenses, and prepare for the inevitable return of the invaders. But for now, as she watched the beautiful blue-green orb of Novus Prime grow larger in the viewscreen, Sarah allowed herself a moment of quiet victory. They had faced the darkness of space and the terror of the unknown, and they had emerged stronger for it. Whatever came next, Sarah knew one thing for certain: humanity would face it head-on, with the indomitable spirit that had carried them to the stars in the first place. The battle was over, but the war for survival had just begun, against all odds. The days following the initial alien encounter were a whirlwind of activity on Novus Prime. Commander Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all, dividing her time between overseeing repairs to the USS Resilience and participating in high-level strategy meetings with Admiral Patel and the colony's leadership. As Sarah strode into the colony's main research facility, she was greeted by the sight of Chief Engineer Rodriguez, hunched over a workbench, surrounded by holographic displays and alien artifacts salvaged from the battle. "Please tell me you have good news, Chief," Sarah said, peering over his shoulder at the strange, pulsating device he was examining. Rodriguez looked up, dark circles under his eyes betraying his lack of sleep. "Depends on your definition of good, Commander. We've made some progress in understanding their tech, but—" He trailed off, shaking his head. "But what?" Sarah pressed. "But it's like trying to understand quantum physics with an abacus," Rodriguez finished. "Their tech is so advanced, it might as well be magic. We're making educated guesses at best." Sarah's lips tightened into a thin line. "We don't have the luxury of guesswork, Chief. Those aliens will be back, and we need every advantage we can get." Before Rodriguez could respond, Sarah's comm unit chirped urgently. Admiral Patel's voice came through, tense and clipped. "Commander Chen, report to the command center immediately. Our long-range sensors have picked up something concerning." Sarah's heart raced as she sprinted to the command center, her mind conjuring worst-case scenarios. As she burst through the doors, the grim faces of the assembled leadership told her all she needed to know. Admiral Patel gestured to the main display, where a sea of red dots was slowly advancing towards Novus Prime. "They're back," she said simply. "And this time, they've brought an armada." Sarah studied the display, her tactical mind already analyzing the situation. The alien fleet was at least 3 times the size of the force they have faced before, with several massive ships that dwarfed anything in the previous encounter. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. "At their current speed, just under 48 hours, Patel replied. "We've already begun evacuating non-essential personnel, but we can't evacuate everyone," Sarah finished. "Not in time." Patel nodded grimly. "Commander, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Our planetary defenses are still recovering from the last attack, and even with the resilience, our chances are slim." Sarah felt the weight of 1,000,000 lives settle on her shoulders. She thought of the colonists, the families who had risked everything to build a new life on this distant world. She thought of Earth, so far away and unaware of the danger lurking in the depths of space. "We've beaten them once," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. "We can do it again." "With all due respect, Commander," one of the colony's council members interjected, "last time was a fluke. We caught them by surprise with outdated technology. They won't make the same mistake twice." Sarah's eyes flashed with determination. "Then we'll have to surprise them again. Admiral, I have an idea. It's risky, possibly insane, but it might be our only shot." As Sarah outlined her plan, she saw the expressions around her shift from skepticism to cautious hope. It was audacious, borderline suicidal, but in the face of certain defeat, it was a risk they had to take. "You're talking about sacrificing the resilience," Patel said slowly, her brow furrowed. Sarah nodded. "Not sacrificing. Using. Every weapon in our arsenal, including the ship itself." After a moment of tense silence, Patel straightened, her decision made. "Do it, Commander. You have full authority to proceed. May God have mercy on us all." The next 36 hours were a blur of frantic preparation. The Resilience was modified according to Sarah's specifications, its systems pushed well beyond their intended limits. The remaining colonists were armed and prepared for a ground assault, knowing that if Sarah's plan failed, they would be the last line of defense. As the alien armada entered the system, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Resilience, her crew tense but ready around her. She opened a channel to the entire colony. "People of Novus Prime, this is Commander Chen. In a few moments, we'll engage the alien fleet in battle. I won't lie to you, the odds are against us. But we have something they don't, the unbreakable spirit of humanity. She paused, letting her words sink in. Throughout our history, we've faced seemingly insurmountable challenges. We've stared into the abyss of extinction and pulled ourselves back from the brink. Today we do so again, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity. Sarah's voice grew fierce with pride and determination. We are the descendants of explorers and pioneers, of those who dared to reach for the stars. We carry within us a legacy of every human who ever dreamed of a better future. Today, we fight not just for our lives, but for that dream. As she spoke, Sarah could almost feel the resolve of the colonists strengthening, their fear transforming into determination. Whatever happens next, know this: we will not go quietly, we will not surrender. We are humanity, and we will endure. With that, Sarah cut the transmission and turned to her crew. Take us out, Mr. Hayes. It's time to remind these aliens why they should fear the human race. The Resilience surged forward, a lone ship against an armada. As they closed with the alien fleet, Sarah's mind raced through the final details of her plan. Everything hinged on precise timing and a hefty dose of luck. Shields at maximum, Sarah ordered. Divert all non-essential power to the main drive. We're going to need every ounce of speed we can muster. The turning point. The aftermath of the Resilience's sacrifice was a mixture of jubilation and somber reflection on Novus Prime. As the colony's inhabitants emerged from their shelters, their eyes were drawn to the sky where debris from the alien fleet still burned up in the atmosphere, creating an eerily beautiful light show. In the colony's main medical center, Dr. Aisha Kapoor worked tirelessly to treat the survivors from the Resilience's escape pods. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy bun, and her usually pristine lab coat was stained with various fluids. As she moved from patient to patient, her mind kept drifting to one particular pod that had yet to be recovered. "Any word on Commander Chen's pod?" she asked a passing nurse, trying to keep the worry out of her voice. The nurse shook her head. "Not yet, doctor. Search and rescue teams are still combing the area." Aisha nodded, pushing down her concern. She had more immediate problems to deal with. As she turned back to her patients, a commotion at the entrance caught her attention. "Make way. We need a doctor here." Aisha rushed over to find a group of colonists carrying in an unconscious figure. Her heart leaped as she recognized the battered form of Commander Sarah Chen. "Get her on a bed, now," Aisha barked, her medical training kicking in. As they transferred Sarah to a nearby biobed, Aisha's trained eye took in the commander's injuries. Burns, lacerations, probable internal bleeding. It was a miracle she was still alive. As Aisha worked to stabilize Sarah, she couldn't help but marvel at the woman's resilience. Somehow, against all odds, she had survived the destruction of her ship and made it back to the colony. Hours later, as Sarah's condition finally stabilized, Aisha allowed herself a moment to breathe. She stepped out of the medical center and into the cool night air, looking up at the stars that now seemed both more wondrous and more terrifying than ever before. A hand on her shoulder startled her out of her reverie. She turned to find Admiral Pautel standing beside her, looking as exhausted as Aisha felt. "How is she?" Pautel asked, her voice low with concern. "Stable for now," Aisha replied. "It's touch and go, but if anyone can pull through this, it's Commander Chen." Pautel nodded, her eyes distant. "We're going to need her, Doctor. What she did up there, it bought us time, but the war is far from over." As if to punctuate the Admiral's words, a series of explosions lit up the night sky. Aisha's heart raced, fearing another alien attack, but Patel's grim smile told a different story. "That's our salvage teams," Patel explained. "They're using controlled detonations to break up the larger pieces of alien debris. We need to gather every scrap of their technology we can." Aisha's scientific curiosity was piqued. "Have we learned anything new about them?" Patel's expression turned thoughtful. "Some, but it's like trying to understand calculus when you've just learned to count. Their tech is, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. As they spoke, a group of engineers hurried past, carrying what looked like a pulsating alien power core. Aisha watched them go, her mind racing with possibilities. "Admiral," she said slowly, an idea forming. "What if we could understand their biology? If we could figure out how they think, how they perceive the world, it might give us insight into their technology." Patel raised an eyebrow. "An interesting thought, Doctor. But how would we go about that? We don't exactly have any alien specimens to study." Aisha's eyes lit up with excitement. "Not yet, but there's debris everywhere. If we could find organic samples, even microscopic ones." Understanding dawned on Patel's face. "We could potentially reconstruct their biological makeup. Dr. Kapoor, I think you might be onto something." Over the next few weeks, Novus Prime transformed into a hive of activity. While engineers and physicists worked to unravel the mysteries of alien technology, Aisha led a team of biologists and xenologists in the study of recovered organic samples. Progress was slow and frustrating. For every breakthrough, there were a dozen setbacks. But slowly, surely, they began to piece together a picture of their alien adversaries. 1 month after the battle, Aisha stood before the colony's leadership, her hands shaking slightly as she prepared to present their findings. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, activating a holographic display. "What you're seeing is our best reconstruction of alien cellular structure. As you can see, it's fundamentally different from our own." The hologram showed a bizarre, shifting cell that seemed to defy the laws of biology as they understood them. Their cells appear to exist in a state of quantum superposition, Aisha explained, her voice filled with awe. "This allows them to process information and energy in ways we can barely comprehend. In essence, their entire biology is a living computer, far more advanced than anything we've ever created." The room was silent as the implications sank in. Admiral Patel was the first to speak. "And how does this help us, Doctor?" Aisha took a deep breath. "It helps us understand their technology. The reason their ships can move the way they do, why their weapons are so powerful, it's all an extension of their biology. They're not just using their technology, they're interfacing with it on a fundamental level." She paused, letting the information sink in. "But here's the key: their biology, as advanced as it is, has limitations. They perceive reality in a specific way, and their technology is built around that perception. If we can understand it, we can find weaknesses," Patel finished, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Aisha nodded. "Exactly. We've already identified several potential vulnerabilities. With more time and resources, we might be able to develop countermeasures, maybe even find a way to disrupt their technology entirely." As the leadership began to discuss the implications of this discovery, the door to the conference room slid open. A hush fell over the room as Commander Sarah Chen walked in, still pale and moving giddily, but very much alive. "Commander," Patel said, standing to greet her. "Should you be out of the medical center?" Sarah gave a wry smile. "With all due respect, Admiral, wild horses couldn't keep me away. Not when we're finally starting to turn the tide." As Sarah took a seat, Aisha couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. They had survived the first encounter, made groundbreaking discoveries, and their hero had returned from the brink of death. For the first time since the aliens appeared, it felt like they had a real chance. "All right, people," Sarah said, her voice carrying the weight of command despite her weakened state. "We've got work to do. Let's show these aliens that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." As the meeting resumed with renewed energy, Aisha knew that they were at a turning point. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges they couldn't even imagine. But with leaders like Sarah Chen, minds like her own, and the indomitable spirit of humanity behind them, she believed they could face whatever the universe threw at them. The aliens had awakened a sleeping giant, and now humanity was ready to fight back. Alien counterattack. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Novus Prime. The colony had transformed from a peaceful settlement into a fortress world, its skies patrolled by newly constructed defense satellites, its surface dotted with weapon emplacements and shield generators. But the most significant changes were happening beneath the surface, in laboratories and workshops where human ingenuity was being pushed to its limits. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the control room of the colony's new shipyard, watching as the first of humanity's new warships took shape. The U.S. Phoenix, as it had been dubbed, incorporated reverse-engineered alien technology with human innovation. It was smaller than the Resilience had been, but far more advanced. "Impressive, isn't it?" Admiral Patel said, coming to stand beside Sarah. "6 months ago, we were fumbling in the dark. Now look at us." Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the ship. "It's a start, but will it be enough?" Before Patel could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights bathed the control room in an eerie glow. "Report," Patel barked into her comm unit. The voice of Lieutenant Zara Curry, now head of Novus Prime's defense grid, came through. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected, Admiral. It's them. They're back." Sarah's heart raced, but her voice remained steady as she issued orders. "Sound General Quarters. I want every ship we have in the air, every weapon online. This is not a drill, people." As they rushed to the command center, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Once again, they were facing an alien armada. But this time, they were ready. The command center was a hive of activity when they arrived. Holographic displays showed the approaching alien fleet, larger than before, with new ship designs that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "They've been busy too," she muttered. Dr. Aisha Kapoor hurried over, her face pale but determined. "Commander Admiral, we've detected some unusual energy readings from the alien ships. They're unlike anything we've seen before." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "New weapons?" Aisha shook her head. "I don't think so. It's more like, well, it's as if they're changing on a fundamental level." Before Sarah could ask for clarification, the alien fleet entered weapons range. The space above Novus Prime erupted into chaos as human and alien weapons fire crisscrossed the void. "Status report," Patel demanded. "Shields holding at 80%, Zara reported. Our new defense grid is giving them a run for their money, but they're pressing hard." Sarah watched the tactical display, her mind racing. The aliens were fighting differently this time, using strategies that seemed eerily human. "They've adapted," she realized aloud. "They're learning from us, just as we've learned from them." As if to confirm her words, a group of alien ships broke formation, executing a perfect flanking maneuver that could have come straight from a human tactical manual. Several of Novus Prime's defense satellites went dark. "We need to change the game," Sarah said, her voice tight with urgency. "If we keep fighting conventionally, they'll overwhelm us." She turned to Aisha. "Doctor, those energy readings you detected, could they be related to the quantum nature of alien biology you discovered?" Aisha's eyes widened in understanding. "Yes, it's possible. If they're altering their quantum states somehow. Then we might be able to disrupt it," Sarah finished. She turned to the engineering team. "I need options, people. How can we use this?" For the next hour, the battle raged on as Sarah and her team worked frantically to develop a countermeasure. The aliens pressed their attack relentlessly, and Novus Prime's defenses began to buckle under the assault. "Shield generators 3 and 7 are down," Zara reported, her voice strained. "We've got breaches in sectors 5 through 9. Ground teams are engaging, but they're taking heavy losses." Sarah gritted her teeth. They were running out of time. "Commander," Aisha called out, her voice filled with excitement. "I think we've got something." Sarah rushed over to the scientist's station. "Explain." "We can use our own quantum field generators to create a disruptive wave," Aisha said, her words tumbling out in a rush. "It won't destroy their ships, but it should temporarily disrupt their ability to interface with their technology." leaving them vulnerable, Sarah finished, a grim smile on her face. How long to implement? 10 minutes to reconfigure the generators, the chief engineer reported. But we'll only get one shot at this. The energy requirements are enormous. Sarah nodded. Do it. All defense teams, this is Commander Chen. Hold the line. Reinforcements are coming. For the next 10 minutes, the battle hung by a thread. Sarah watched, her heart in her throat, as alien forces pushed closer and closer to the colony's core. Generators ready, Aisha called out. Sarah took a deep breath. On my mark, now. A wave of invisible energy pulsed out from Novus Prime, washing over the battlefield. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the alien ships began to falter. Their movements became erratic, their weapons fire sporadic. It's working, Zora shouted, unable to contain her excitement. Their ships are losing power. Sarah didn't waste a moment. All units, press the attack. Take them down while they're vulnerable. What had been a desperate defense turned into a fierce counterattack. Human ships and fighters swarmed the disoriented alien vessels, exploiting every weakness. As the tide of battle turned, Sarah allowed herself a moment of hope. They had done it. They had found a way to fight back. But even as the alien fleet began to retreat, leaving behind a graveyard of broken ships, Sarah knew this was far from over. The aliens would be back, and next time, they would be ready for this tactic. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah looked around the command center at the tired but triumphant faces of her team.